Welcome to the next video in this series looking at AutoCAD 2022 Basics. In the previous video we did the room's layout. In this video we will add the walls. Just as a reminder, these videos look at a context relating to Northern Ireland and building regulations there, but there are many transferable skills. The room layout for the ground floor looked something like this at the end of the last video. So to add walls, we're going to start off by creating a new layer. And we're going to call it GA walls, just for my initials. And then we're going to change the color to the index color 3, green. Click OK. And for the line weight, we're going to choose a line weight of 0.35. Density materials get a thicker weighting. Then we'll make that layer current by double clicking on it. And we can close the layer property manager. So what we need to do at this stage is draw a polyline around the outside of the footprint for the plan for the ground floor. So let's use the polyline tool, and we'll start at the bottom left and we'll just work around in this direction. Make sure that you click directly on the endpoints, not anywhere else, just to make sure that there are no issues. And then for a point like this, we need to make sure that we don't click the endpoint of the polyline, but rather hover over it and then move along to get the perpendicular point on the rectangle for the hallway. Then come to the front edges. And again, over at this side, we don't want to click on this point here, but we want the point that's aligned with that on the rectangle for the hallway. And then to close off the polyline, you can either click back at this point, or indeed on your keyboard you can hit C and hit enter, and that will close the polyline. So that's the overall outline for the floor plan at this stage. Now we're going to use the offset tool then, and the outside wall we're going to use a 350mm cavity wall, so 100mm blockwork inner leaf, 150mm cavity for the insulation, and then 100mm outside leaf. That could be either blockwork or brickwork. So the distance 350, and then we can offset that out the way. At this stage then, the best thing to do is select those two polylines and explode them. So this is the explode tool up here. Let's not forget that this is a semi-detached house. So at this stage, what we'll do is we'll just add in something for the to indicate that the construction continues. So I'm going to draw a line 700 long at this stage, and then we'll just use the trim tool to trim that off, and then again, maybe I should have used the same tool just there. And then at this stage we can, I suppose, extend that just to align with that point there, although that might not be where we finally want it. So usually you have a break line in a scenario like this, and it is something of a, not quite a squiggly line, but a bit more like a heartbeat. So we're going to draw a polyline just at this stage. We're going to draw it down the way, a distance of 200mm, and then we're going to pick up an angle of 30 degrees here. So you do need to make sure that your snap or your polar tracking settings are on an appropriate option there for 15, 30, 45, etc. So we're going to choose 30 degrees and put a length of 100. We're going to go the opposite direction then, and do a distance of 200, and then back again the other direction, another 100, and then make the line 200 long here. So at this stage, yeah, we'll maybe leave the line just a line like that. Let's take a temporary line here at this point, and then we can move that new line from the midpoint there to here. and then we can delete the line out. So don't forget that it does the same at the other side of the dwelling. So let's grab a couple of these lines here and just mirror them. This line is still centered. The other one is off centered, so don't use that one, but we can use the midpoint of the inside line there to mirror. And then we can trim that line out there, and we can, probably use the extend tool is a better one to do there. So now we have the construction continuing. Another thing maybe to add in at this point is a boundary line. So I'm going to create another new layer, call it GA boundary. I'm going to make that line red, index color 1. Although debatably you may want to make it one of these other colors so that it does print out in color at a later stage. Yeah, let's choose index color 10 actually. Make that layer current. We need the line to be midway between these two lines. This is the party line between, or the party wall between the dwelling. So we want the line midway between. So to find that, I'm going to hold down Shift and right click and choose mid between 2 points, selecting 2 points on the wall, and then we can draw a line down and then just move that up so that it overshoots both the front and the back of the dwelling. At this stage then we need to go back to the walls layer, and one way that you could do the internal walls is to trace over the rectangles. However, sometimes that can create issues if you have been inaccurate in any of your stretches or resizing of the rectangles. I know mine are okay, so just for quickness I'm going to turn off the dimensions layer, which I have on my drawing. You probably won't have that on yours yet, but I'm just going to trace over these lines just to pick up what we need. So you repeat that for all of the internal walls. One thing that you should think about when you are doing your walls on the first floor level is how those walls align with the ground floor and how that's going to work from a structural point of view. So we will be addressing that in a moment or two. So that's all the internal walls I've traced over, but as I said, sometimes those may or may not come up accurately. At this stage, we can actually turn off the layouts layer. Unfortunately, that has hidden the room names in this case, but what we could do is leave the layer on and we can lock it so that it doesn't get edited as we are fixing and moving around with the next stage. So you do need to replicate that also for the first floor. The next consideration then is in relation to the outside wall length, and I would like to have a brick plinth around the outside of the building, so I need to use brick dimensions. I'm not going to stop and go into great detail about this, but you can look up brick dimensions online and find a table something like what's shown on screen here, and then choose the right dimensions so that you can create your plan accordingly. So these will be the dimensions I will be using on my plan. In the meanwhile then, I have added in dimensions for the walls on the outside, so we need to match this up with the brick dimensions on the table just shown. So let's draw a temporary line here. Doesn't overly matter the length of it. It's just a temporary line. Let's make it overshoot on the left hand side. So rather than 8800, we want that dimension to be 8775. That's the nearest dimension. So we can offset that there. And then we can also offset for the front. And rather than a distance of 900, we want 1002.5. Okay. So let's use the stretch tool then, and with this tool you need to make sure that you encompass all of the endpoints of things that you wish to move here. So for the first one, we will use everything at the front of the building, and we will use that as a reference point there up to the line that we offset a moment ago. So 8, 8, or 877 point, no, 8775 is the dimension there now. And then at the front edge, we need to pick up, make sure you don't pick up the dimensions there. I almost did. We need to pick up those points and move them out the way. It didn't pick up the dimensions, so let's just fix that. It's currently showing as 1003, so let's just check the properties, scroll right down and find the precision in the primary units section. We can change that to 0.0. So it is 1002.5. Not that it will necessarily be built to 0.5 millimeter of accuracy, but it's good just to show that brick dimensions have been accurately shown there. The next aspect then is the dimensions in the other direction. So rather than 3100, we want a dimension here of 3150. So again, we'll draw a temporary line here and just move that up. Of course, this element of making it accurate to brick dimensions, some people don't do it at this stage, but I like to do it just to make sure that when it comes to detailing drawings and working drawings later, that I do have the dimensions accurately drawn. So offset 3150. And what we can do then is use the stretch tool for the left hand side or the right hand side of the drawing here. So I'm going to include the boundary lines. Well, I might not be able to include the boundary lines because these lines aren't long enough, so let's just move it afterwards. So picking up all those elements of the drawing there and moving it over by 15 millimeters. Means when you use the stretch tool that you don't have to go back and try and trim all the junctions there, etc. The next dimension then, we want that to be a CO minus dimension, so it would be 2690. So it is only a difference of 10 millimeters this time. So let's use the stretch tool again. I'll go back a bit by 10 millimeters, making sure the horizontal polar is on. Okay, and then for the last main element of the building here, we want this dimension to be 4955. So this comes from the overall dimension between this line here and what would be the equivalent on the other side of the building. So effectively you would need to mirror that over and work out exactly what your dimension needs to be. But I know from my drawing that it's 4955. So basically in this case we can take all of that and move it over by 30 millimeters. So it's 4955. Now what we do need here is to move the boundary line just to get it accurately. So let's pick that up. Move it clearly from the intersection point to the midpoint just to be sure. And then we can delete that. Now you see underneath there we do have these layouts that are still there. They are locked in position. What you could do is go back and unlock that layer and resize them all just so that you get the areas correct, and double check all your areas when you're doing all of this. Another thing that I need to do for my drawing, whether you need to do it for your drawing or not is different maybe, but what I need to do is create these inner walls here to be 200 millimeters thick. I will kind of speed through that step and just go forward and show you that in a moment. Now that I've updated this to show these internal walls around the hallway area as 200 millimeters thick, the next thing to think about is where the openings will be for the doors and the walls. So just for clarity at this point, I'm going to turn the dimensions layer off. I know you'll not have those drawn yet, just following through on the videos. But the first window we will do is the window down here for the study. So we'll offset that by a distance of 890, which is a CO minus dimension. And then we're going to put a window in of 1585 in to that area there. And then we can use the trim tool to trim that line and leave the opening. We do need to get rid of these other lines here, just the way the trim tool works sometimes. Then at the front edge, we want to have the door roughly in the middle of that. So let's use the offset tool for 777.5. And then offset by 1022.5, which is the opening for the door. And again, we can use the trim tool just to tidy up the parts of the wall there. And then at the front edge, we will do 2 windows here for the living room area. So let's offset by 450. That's a CO dimension. And then we'll just use the extend tool in this case. And then offset by 1585. And then offset by 665 for a wall between the 2 windows. And then another window of 1585. So when you're placing the windows, try and think of symmetry and making sure that things are going to look fairly equal size-wise. I have kept these openings, all these windows, for 1585. Also think about the first floor and how that will match as well. So just using the TR for the trim tool again. Definitely do think about how the windows look in relation to each other on the elevation, because that will come at a later point. There are a couple of windows on the side and on the back here. There is a double door on my plan as well, so maybe I should just use an offset tool here. What is that distance? It's 1682.5. I'm going to offset the boundary line, and then I'm going to use the match properties tool to make that wall. Then we can offset that by 1810, which is the distance for the double door, just in this case for this example. And then we can trim that opening out. So I'm not going to do all the external openings just at this stage. What we can do is a few of the internal openings then for the doors, and then I can show the final version of the ground floor plan. So when you're putting in a door, we're going to use a distance of 910 millimeters, and we always want to offset that from the wall. So when you imagine a door opening, so if the door opens to the position where this line is here, when the door opens, you don't want the handle to hit off the wall or hit off a window or anything like that. It's best to have a little bit of a gap in behind there. That allows space for the architrave and so on around the door also. So offset 910 also gives the opportunity to put a little bit of a door stop in there just so the door handle doesn't mark the wall or whatever. So we can trim out the lines like so. We can also trim that part of the wall there. We can trim all the wall junctions just at this stage as well, like that. Just go around your drawing and make sure you do all of those little junctions. Maybe I should do that now on this plan at least. So that's leaving a structural opening of 910 millimeters for the door as such. And then with the WC here, we can do the same. So let's just extend that line temporarily and then offset by 100. And then again offset by 910. So let's just check this dimension up here, what it is. That's 90 millimeters. That's just about okay. You want to have something close to 100 millimeters either side of the door, just to allow for things to happen around those openings. Try to, oh, what am I doing? I'm doing it the wrong way around. You need to make sure that you leave space just for architrave and for different things. Also consider if you need a light switch outside a room, where that would be placed, for example, as well. So this one here is the cloakroom, albeit that the stairs will be on this side. So let's just do one more opening at this stage. Offset by 100, offset by 910. and then we'll extend those two lines and then use the trim. Okay, so stairs will be here. There will be opportunity to put a light switch somewhere here, either on the stair carcassing, or if the stairs are an open stair as I would plan for my drawing, then that could go just on that part of the wall there. So yeah, continue with that process for the whole floor plan so that you have it complete. Here we have the floor plan with all of the openings added in. So the doors and the windows, internal doors and external doors both. I've also added a fireplace here in the living room, so bear in mind that that would need to be on the walls layer. So let's just double check the size of that. I have that 1400 by 400, so something of that nature should suffice. Also, just to go up and have a little look at what the first floor is like. Mouse is playing up slightly here. So there's a window opening there that I've left out, so let's just trim that to fix it. And notice at the front edge here there is another rectangular set of lines. That is the roof for the void, or for the porch area. There will be a void here because of the stairs, so just be careful in terms of arrangement with those things. Also, the chimney breast continues up to the first floor, which works fine because the ensuite is directly beside that, and I have added in a linen cupboard. Just double check, make sure that you trim out all the junctions where the internal walls meet the external walls. So that's it for this stage. Having created all the openings, the next two videos will then look at adding in the doors and the windows. Thanks for watching.